Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Leslie Tavernier, Dark Feminine Love Coach for Dark Feminine Women. And I'm here once again with my Dark Masculine man, Rakem Sekou. Would you like to say a little bit about yourself before we get into the questions for today, Rakem?
Yeah, this is Rakim Sekou, also known as Carly Stevens Jr. I am a relationship coach, metaphysician, and do a lot of work when it comes to supporting women and manifesting the relationships they want and the love they want.
Awesome. So I got a lot of questions for you today. So we're gonna,
Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
I have a lot. So some of these are personal, some of these are more general, but we'll see how it goes. So the first one that I think a lot of women want to understand, not just about you specifically, but fuck boys in general, men who are sleeping with a lot of women.
Okay.
So if you could answer on their behalf, why can't you just be satisfied with one woman? Is it that you lack discipline? Or is it that your ego is constantly seeking validation through having a multitude of women? Like what's because these are the things that people who don't understand the whole multiple women thing, this is what they're thinking, that you lack discipline and or you need constant validation. So what would you say about that?
Well, first of all, the people who say that a man or a woman who has sex with a lot of people is because they lack discipline. They don't actually believe that. They say that, but they don't believe that. These are usually people who are not able to manifest the love that they're looking for, and they're projecting and expressing their frustrations by attacking people who have a lot of love connections. Okay. So they say that, they say, oh, you lack discipline. But the reality is, like, no, you're unable to attract what you're looking for inside your relationship scenario, right? That's number one.
Mhm.
The second part is there's nothing wrong with human connection, nothing wrong with, sexuality, nothing wrong with intimacy, nothing wrong with, dating. Again, human beings are not monogamous. We are not monogamous by nature. What that means is that the way that we relate, the way that we maintain our sanity as human beings, the way we maintain community, the way we maintain love in our communities is through intimacy, is through connection, which includes relationships and sexual connection, that kind of thing. So that's who we actually are as human beings. In terms of me expressing, myself in that way, like that's again just who I am. I enjoy, connection with women. I think women are amazing. I enjoy the friendships. Most of my connections with women are actually platonic. But the ones that are sexual, I embrace those. I don't shy away from those things. And so, if people have a judgment around it, I know where that comes from. Like I said, most folks are really having a hard time securing one relationship. So that when they see somebody having multiple relationships and that those individuals are happy and they're satisfied and they're satiated, then that can be a trigger for them. Also, with religion, religion tends to talk down on people who tend to be into plurality and that kind of stuff, even though half the church is cheating, and especially the pastor and those types of things. But, the bottom line is like this is who we are as human beings. This is very natural for us. I don't walk in any kind of shame or any kind of weirdness. I just do what feels good to me. And, of course, people are going to have judgment about that because they don't have the courage to actually step into their truth.
Wow. So what about the idea that you're doing this for egoic validation? Is there any truth to that?
Well, what is egoic validation?
Lots of women want me.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything we do, most of the things that we do is for the ego or for the animal, right? So, what other part of us is there? There's the ego, there's the higher self, and then the animal. So, if you want any kind of attention, if you want any kind of acknowledgement, if you want to be recognized as a unique person in the world, if you want to be recognized for your talents, those types of things, that's all ego.
Mm.
If you want people to give you compliments or to recognize who you are in any particular kind of way, it's all ego. So yeah, I mean, I function out of my ego like every other human being does on the planet. So does me having multiple relationships with women come from ego? Sure. Comes from ego, comes from animal, and it comes from higher self. It comes from higher self from the standpoint that I understand that these connections mean more than just some kind of like, very superficial thing, that they actually have a serious depth to them, that they're very healing for myself and very healing for, the women I interact with. And so, yeah, I come from ego, I come from higher self, and I come from animal when it comes to me connected with other women.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So another thing that some people may be wondering about is, people who know that you at one point in time had two wives, and from what you have said publicly, your second wife had wanted to be sexually exclusive with you, and you weren't in agreement with that. So the question is, why couldn't you just agree to that? Like what, why wouldn't you just agree to be exclusive with her?
Yeah, I could have agreed to it. I felt if we had the kind of connection that would have, fed that for me, where I can be exclusive and feel, fulfilled to whatever level and, feel really good about making that choice and decision, then sure, I could have done that. But we didn't have that kind of relationship. So we didn't have that kind of connection where I felt like, hey, if this is the only person I'm, connecting with on an intimate level or a sexual level, that I would feel satiated, I would feel fulfilled, I would feel like I'm not betraying myself. So because I didn't feel that way, then I didn't agree to, being exclusive. But if I felt that way, with her or any other women, I'm open to being exclusive. I'm not against it. That's the point about being free, about being open, is that I can decide to be exclusive whenever I want to. And I did give, I actually gave her a year of being exclusive, in our relationship. So it's something I can do. I'm not close to it, but I'm not going to just force it because people expect me to do it or society says I should do it. I think that's silly.
Okay, wow, thank you. So
Sure.
I'm going to read a quote that you shared some years ago that I thought was interesting, and I sent this quote to you, and I asked you about it, but you just gave me a one-word answer. And so the quote was, sometimes men call the women that they relate to, quote, crazy, unquote, not realizing it's something within him that attracts crazy behavior from her. It's the man's imbalanced feminine nature that's being reflected back at him in the form of her craziness. It's also a sign of his deficient dominant nature. Oftentimes, women act crazy as an expression of their submissiveness and need for strong leadership from her man. And you also went on to say it's usually the most submissive women who act the craziest inside relationships. So I said this to you and I asked you if this quote applies to our relationship. And you said partly. And, I would like to know more of what you mean by partly.
Yeah, well, you know, the part about the submissive woman needing more leadership, that doesn't apply to us because we're not in that kind of relationship. So you don't play a role in my life where I need to be providing leadership to you in that way. You're not a part of what I do daily. You're not a part of, the way I make my money. You're not a part of, a lot of things that actually, sustain me on a day-to-day basis. So
Mhm.
your craziness is not really about leadership. It's about, in my opinion, about you not having the power and the ability to manifest the things that you want in your life. For example, manifesting more money and manifesting the ability to come see me and those types of things. Um, there might be some other parts of it, like in terms of the reflection of my own feminine nature. The thing is, if a woman is acting crazy and then it gets on a man's nerves, you know what I'm saying? And it's like a very much of a trigger for him, then yeah, that's something that he needs to look at within himself. Probably some unresolved feminine things within himself, or rebalancing his own feminine nature, or dealing with some other things. So from that standpoint, yes. But at the same time, a man, I can call a woman crazy, but it's just because I'm calling her crazy, not because I really care either way, or not because it's really bothering me, or not because, I'm that invested in how she behaves and that kind of stuff. So just because a man calls a woman crazy in general doesn't mean he has a major problem with it. Like I said in one of my other videos, actually the clip I posted today, I said that, I tend to attract crazy women. So I've always been around crazy women. People look at Kenya as being crazy and just the kind of the way she is and her philosophies on life and how she carries herself. Like a lot of the women I've dated in the past and date currently can be labeled as crazy women. And they've done different things and put themselves on display to indicate that. But it doesn't mean I have a major issue with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, at times is it annoying and all. Yeah, it can be all that. But, women who aren't crazy are equally annoying. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, relationships are what they're going to be. So again, just because a woman is labeled crazy, it depends on like really where the man is and, where his tolerance and his behavior and his ability to hold space and those things are. For the most part, I'm able to do that with most women. One of the things about you and I is like, it's kind of annoying because again, you're not really supplying things to my life that, make the effort something that is worth it. You see what I'm saying? So like when you were doing your crazy stuff before and calling all the people that we know and all that, like it's just annoying. It's just stupidity because you're not really supplying that much value to my life. But yeah, I have been annoyed by the things you've done before in the past. And that reflects some things I need to work on within myself, especially around my feminine nature. So I'm saying all that to say like it's a scattered thing. It's not just a linear thing. That's why I said partly. Some of those things do apply to us, other things do not apply to us.
One thing that you said that was interesting is you said that a woman could not be crazy and still be annoying. So how does that, can you explain that?
Yeah, like some women, like you can talk to a lot of men, especially, for example, the men you used to be your clients, when you were doing the work you used to do, their wives weren't giving them any pussy.
Mhm.
Right. So they weren't acting crazy. They were just weren't they weren't giving them any love, any pussy, any affection. They weren't really nurturing them. They weren't cooking for them. They weren't doing any of those things. So that's not she's not acting crazy. She's just being very annoying. She's being, she's lacking, care and consideration for the man. And so that could be just labeled just as worse. Like, one thing I know a lot of men who've told stories about this, one of the things they enjoyed
Mhm.
uh, is like their women would act crazy, but they would never not have sex with them at the end of the night. You see what I'm saying? Like the women would always, be giving them head and having sex and all that. So no matter what kind of fight they got in throughout the day or in the evening, the women always, cooked for them and had sex with them and all those types of things. So really, those men kind of enjoyed that energy. They enjoyed the intensity. They enjoyed the passion. Now, did they enjoy it 100% of the time? Yeah, I'm sure things got a little crazy sometimes. But like, like with my girlfriend now, like that's how she described her past. Like her and her ex-husband, they would fight all the time, but they never skipped a night to have sex. You see what I'm saying? So he actually enjoyed that. A part of them actually enjoyed that kind of behavior. So that's what I mean. Like just because the person is quote unquote crazy, especially when you look at it from the outside looking in, doesn't mean it's something that the people don't enjoy or don't like.
Mhm. Wow, great response. So now I'm going to talk to you about the viewpoint that the two becoming one. So two people merging into one. And I see a lot of coaches talking about this. And these are, monogamous mindset coaches who um, basically say that, the evolution of humanity in terms of intimate relating between men and women, is it's not just monogamy, it is divine union, sacred union. Um, Richard and Namaste Moore, the term that they use is the dyad. And I've seen many, spiritual types of coaches, relationship coaches use the term hieros gammas, which is a Greek term, if I'm not mistaken, for like the sacred marriage or sacred union. But they always imply that, or they don't even just imply, they tell you that this is only within monogamous legal marriage, that this type of union can occur. And so I looked up the term high risk gammas because I was like, okay, what is high risk gammas actually? So I looked it up on Google, and this is the definition that I got. High risk gammas is a Greek term for a quote sacred marriage, unquote, which can refer to a mythological or ritual union between a god and a goddess, or a divine being and a human. Historically, this was a ritual in some ancient agricultural societies, particularly in the Middle East, that was performed to ensure the fertility of the land, promote prosperity, and guarantee the continued continuity of the cosmos. In ritualistic context, human participants, such as a king and a priestess, would act as representatives of the deities. So that's what was actually meant, at least originally, by the term sacred marriage. It wasn't so much necessarily legal marriage, but more so a ritual between a god and a human, or a god and a goddess, and basically humans agreeing to invoke a god and a goddess and have sex as god and goddess. And that's what was originally meant by Hieros Gammas. And so, my question to you, Rakem, all that said, is the ultimate relationship attainment for human beings monogamous marriage, where the two become one, ideally? And if not, what do you think is the ultimate evolution of humanity? And which way do we need to go in order to elevate beyond the things that have plagued us all these years?
Yeah, but the quick answer is no. So the two becoming one and monogamous stuff, like that's not the ultimate anything. The concept of like the divine marriage is, people get that confused about what that actually is. What that actually is see what they're trying to describe it as is more like the fantasy, like what Western culture fantasy and romance films, where people kind of meld into this one being. There's actually a movie about that where these two people go into the forest and one person like drinks from this water well in this tree or something, and it makes them merge together, like to become one being. But that's what they're actually talking about. But that's not what the divine marriage is really about. Divine marriage is about the celebration of two individual beings who are complementary in their expression, who have figured out how to integrate together without losing their individuality. So the man maintains his masculinity, the woman maintains her femininity. The man maintains, for example, either his submissiveness or his dominance. The woman maintains either her dominance or her submissiveness. And that these two individual sovereign beings rise to the level of consciousness where they're able to come together and work together as one, communicate together as one, accomplish things as one, those types of things, and then go on about their business and do the things that they got to do as individuals. So there's no losing the individual in divine marriage. It's because what anybody who has any kind of common sense around spirituality and metaphysics understands is that, the individual was created for a reason. You're created because your gifts and your offerings as a divine human being are supposed to be put out into the world and spread into the world and those types of things because those things are very valuable. That's why you were created. That's why we all have value. So that has to be maintained. But the question is, can you be that individual sovereign being and connect with another sovereign being and do amazing things and do great things and do great works and show how, two opposing, seemingly unrelated beings can come together as one and accomplish things, right? That's the whole reason why it takes an elevated state of consciousness to go beyond things like racism or sexism. That's why I talk down about like the men who are complaining about women and women complain about men, because that's a lower level of consciousness, right? So you need to understand, like, yeah, we have a difference, right? We view the world differently as men and women or as races or whatever. How we feel about things is different. But the question is, inside those differences, can we come together? And the celebration and the godness, right? The goddessness within that is the ability to bring these individuals together to celebrate greatness, right? The archetype Ma'at, which is in our pantheon community is called the visionary, and she governs wealth, right? She's the fortune major, she's Jupiter. The reason why she governs wealth is because that's her key contribution to the world. Her key contribution to the world is she can take two seemingly disconnected, unrelated individuals or things or whatever and bring them together in harmony to do great things. That's why she governs wealth. And that's what wealth actually is. That's like the divine union actually is. You see what I'm saying? That's why, like, even when you talk about polygynous marriages and plural marriages, that's why that's even a higher state. Like I'll ask you, like, what takes more intelligence? What takes more spiritual wherewithal? You being able to get along and harmonize with one person, or you being able to get along and harmonize with like 100? Obviously you get what I'm saying, like you being able to harmonize with 100, like that's a God thing, it's a goddess thing. Like God created all beings. God wants all of his children, goddess wants all of her children to come together in union and celebration and work together. Like that's the genius. This whole thing about monogamy and like pushing monogamy and it just should be you two over here in the corner, and what I'm saying, like that's you know it's really a sickness. It's an illness when you look at like actual species of mammals who are monogamous, like gibbons, for example. Gibbons is a type of primate. They live in trees and they live in a nuclear family and they stay separated from all the other gibbons.
Mhm.
So they don't have any kind of community. They don't have any kind of where the community come together, work together. Therefore, that species is kind of handicapped from the standpoint that it can't really evolve because they don't come together as community. You see what I'm saying? So I understand what they're saying. That's more of just like I said, it goes into the romantic Western stories of, Prince Charming and people riding off into the sunset and that kind of stuff. But it's not real. We're not supposed to be the Borg from Star Trek. The Borg is like that species of beings that comes together and they all start to merge into one mind, like a hive mind, and they all think exactly alike. They all do the exact same thing. That's essentially what these people are describing. Like you come together and you're essentially one. You're no longer the individual, you know what I'm saying? That God has created you to be. Now you're this new being, and the old you is gone. And no, that's not an elevated thing. The elevated thing is no, you remain individuals, you remain sovereign. Each of you is a god, each of you is a goddess, and you come together and you do amazing, great works together.
Wow. The thing is, Rock, I hear what you're saying, but a lot of people still feel desirous of becoming one being with another human being. Like that's very appealing to people. So, what do you say about that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to experience something like that. First of all, most of the people who are talking about this stuff, they haven't actually achieved like a really solid union with another human being.
Mm,
Like most people who promote monogamy are not successfully monogamous, right? They don't have true love. They don't have long-term committed marriage. They've never been in a 10-year marriage, a 15-year marriage, a 20-year marriage, where there's happiness and there's no abuse and no infidelity and no cheating, and they both are still, having sex, 4 times a week or whatever it is. Like very few people can actually boast that.
mm,
Even some of the people you named, when I look at these individuals, I don't see that in their union. They claim they have that because they're selling coaching and that kind of stuff and selling their products and services, but do they actually have that? I don't see that. You see what I'm saying? Like, in some of the examples you gave, when people came into the union, they destroyed the union.
mm,
You understand? So no, I don't see a scenario where you know, these are individuals who actually have achieved those things. That said, again, we live in a culture where that type of thing is promoted. So monogamy is promoted, falling in love and sailing off into the sunset is promoted, and people want to experience it. I think it's great, and I do believe that people should experience, successful primary partnership and committed partnership. Like I do believe every person should have a primary committed partner if at all possible. I
mm,
don't think each union should look the same, but I do believe everybody should have a primary committed partner that they can actually, grow with for the rest of their lives and those types of things. But so people want that. But what people are really saying that they want marriage, they want union, they want connection, they want to know what love feels, they want to know what it feels to be protected and all those types of things. And yeah, they should. I think they should experience it. They should have that. But the reason why they're pushing it so hard is because they've been unable to achieve it. When you talk to most people who've been married for like 15, 20, 30 years, they'll let you know like kind of like the real deal about what marriage actually is. It's not what is painted. It's a
mm,
business contract. It's something that you really need to work through and work for to be successful. It's got major downs in it, and it's
mm,
got ups as well. But
mm,
it's not the fantasy. So this whole thing that these people are painting is fantasy. And again, the reason why they're putting that out there is because it sells. So, like you said, most people do want that. That's why romance movies are still so popular and romance books are still so popular. People want that. I get that. It's been sold and pushed for generations. And so
mm,
these are just people who are pushing out so they can sell their products and services and make money. But, very few of their followers actually achieve any of those things. Because one, the folks they don't have the actual tools and technology to teach their people how to achieve it. They're more giving you like uh, philosophical cliche things that they're saying to say do this, do that. But those aren't the tools that are required to actually create that kind of unionship. You know what I
mm,
mean? No, in order to create even a successful monogamous relationship, it requires like deep spiritual work and deep communication skills and deep conflict resolution skills and deep understanding of human psychology in terms of how we move and how your partner moves, deep understanding of the masculine and feminine, and understanding of why you chose your partner, all these things. So, these people are not offering those tools and those technologies. And it's really a shame, you know what I'm saying? To give you just to give them all this kind of clickbait cliche, You know what I'm saying? The two become one. You can have this. This is what it should be. When in reality, most of the people never achieve that.
Mm. All right, moving on. Rakham, many women, especially women that are in relationship with a dark masculine man, many of these women feel uncomfortable and even angry about being a side piece or a jump off, a term I know you sometimes use, to their dark masculine man. So, can you speak about the journey of going from being a side piece or a jump off or a mistress to a respected lover to a girlfriend to eventually wife? How do women make that journey? Because they don't want to stay in the role of side piece. Like side piece feels like less than. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, these names, jump off,
Mhm.
side piece, lover, those types of things, these are all just labels. The labels by themselves are not good or bad.
Okay.
Okay. So some women are fine being that quote unquote jump off. Some men are fine being that quote unquote jump off. Some women are fine being the side piece. Some men are fine being the side piece. You see what I'm saying? So just because these labels are out there and they have a negative connotation because of our society doesn't mean they're actually negative. Like I know a number of women and men who are fine being the side piece. They don't want to be in the marriage. They don't want to be up under this person every single day. They don't want the responsibilities of having the children and doing all these things. They don't feel that the man that or the woman would be exciting to be with on a daily basis. They actually don't believe that. They want to just see them here and there, have very intense sexual interactions, get gifts, and do some travel and those types of things. Like there's people out there who have that and enjoy that. Number two, there's there's women and men because of monogamous culture involves so much infidelity. There are a lot of women and men who they're married, right? So they're in a marriage, 20 years of clients been married 20, 30 years, but they're the side piece in another relationship without their husband or their wife knowing.
Yeah.
You understand? So they're playing two roles. Like some people love to play two roles. They want to play the wife and I want to play the mistress. You see what I'm saying? Or the lover and or whatever it might be, or the jump off. Why? Because playing the wife, you lose an aspect of yourself. You're not having that passionate sex. You're not having the surprise sex. Your husband's not, what I'm saying, cornering you in the laundry room, bend you over the dryer and fucking you. You see what I'm saying? Like those days have passed, and like a lot of women say, I want to experience that again.
Mhm.
Men say the same thing. I want to experience a woman who like really wants me. As soon as as soon as I come through the door, she jumps on me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So the point is like you can have all these roles. These are not bad roles to play. So the one to me, the people who are really winning are the people who are able to attract all these roles into their life.
Mm.
Okay. So they might be a wife or a husband, but they also get a chance to play these other roles. They get to be a jump off, they get to be a side piece, or they get to be a lover, or they get to be a one night stand, or whatever they want to be, and experience the fullness of life. These are the people who, to me, in my opinion, who are actually winning.
Wow.
Okay. Now, again, the people who complain about this are usually people who they haven't experienced being a wife or a husband. So
Mhm.
they haven't learned to manifest it. That's what the whole train is for the dark masculine and dark feminine. Like people are trying to get out of this one box.
Mm.
So, okay, you've been a side piece all your life. You've never been a wife. You've never been a husband. Now you want to be that. You see what I'm saying? But you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And you haven't gotten help from anybody. You haven't made any changes to yourself, so you tend to be stuck. So that's why these people want that. That's why these people want to get out of that side piece or lover or jump off box because they haven't experienced successfully being a husband or a wife. But once they manifest that and they've done that for a couple decades, you'll see that their attitude around all that stuff changes. Now they want to experience that for the most part. They don't want to just kind of lose themselves inside being a husband or lose themselves inside being a wife. And you've experienced that again with the sex work you've done. You've
Mhm.
experienced clients who are basically tired of the monotony of marriage and they needed some kind of something exciting and passionate and adventurous and risky in their life, and that's just human nature.
Yeah. Well, I hear what you're saying. That many of the people, the women that are not comfortable being a side piece are women who've never been a wife in most cases. But I think it's more than that. Like it's also like society at large, when society at large uses terms like side piece and jump off, it's not meant as a positive. or adjective. It's meant as an insult.
That's
So,
true.
that's why a lot of women, they don't feel comfortable being a side piece to a dark masculine man.
Absolutely. That's just life.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Just like being called black was considered an insult. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, people are going to say things to try to bring you down, to try to castigate you. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be Michael Jordan. People are talking negatively about him. You see what I'm saying? Saying he's a ball hog. And he's like, oh, yeah, people are going to talk negatively about you. Why? Because they're envious, because they're projecting their hurt, their pain on you. So, yes, these terms are meant to demean and bring people down and break people down. That's true. But, part of your initiation, all of our initiations in life, is to not allow these things to influence us in a negative way. We have to rise above the labels, rise above what people are saying, learn to follow our own truth, and live our best lives. That's the lesson.
Mhm. I still got to play devil's advocate because there's still going to be women listening that are saying like, Rakim, I want to be his wife, or I want to, some sort of title that sounds respectful. So what would you say to those women?
I would say manifest being a wife. Like I told you, I approve of people being wives and husbands. I approve of marriage.
Mhm.
I agree. Like I said before, I think all people should have that long-term committed partner, whether you want to call that a husband or a wife or a life partner, whatever you want to call that. Like I think all people should have that.
Mhm.
So my advice is yes, go be a wife, go be a husband. Do all you can to do it. If you're not able to do it, then you need to get help. Like admit that you don't understand how to manifest that in your life. Stop blaming men or stop blaming women or stop blaming the US government or whatever it is you want to blame and actually get the help and support that you need. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with like if you're trying to lose weight, just hire a trainer, just hire a dietitian. You know what I'm saying? Like stop acting like you understand what you're doing. You don't.
Mhm.
Your weight is up. You haven't been able to lose weight. You see what I'm saying? It's been years.
Yeah.
You need to hire somebody who can coach you and educate you and keep an eye on you. You don't have the discipline or the knowledge or the understanding to do it yourself. The same thing with women trying to be married, trying to be wives. You don't understand how to do it. You've got internal hangups that prevent you from actually stepping outside of your trauma and outside your conditionings and step into the ability to manifest being a wife. Same thing with men. These men out here complaining about, these women not giving them a chance. No, you have these traumas within you. Step outside your traumas, get help, get somebody who can help you, see what you need to do, what you got to change, what you got to improve upon so that you can be the kind of man that these women want to marry.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? That's what's actually happening. So again, I approve it. I want every woman who wants to be a wife to be a wife. If she wants to be monogamous, I approve that as well. I don't push anybody into poly or open because most people aren't ready for it anyway. No, go ahead and try to be monogamous. Do the very best you can. When you start having trouble, make sure you get help and get help from somebody who understands. Most of these therapists and counselors don't know what the hell they're talking about. So they're not going to be able to, because they're coming from the standpoint of, well, monogamy is natural. So they're going to say, well, they're not going to acknowledge the fact that first of all, you've got a program running within you that wants you to go mate with as many people as possible to preserve the human species on the planet. Okay. Number two, they're not necessarily going to understand that you have certain traumas that you're dealing with. So when you couple those traumas with the program that's running within you, the procreative program, it's going to cause a really, really major issue where you're not going to find your husband or wife attractive, where you're going to be, led to infidelity, led to lack of communication, led to lack of authenticity, those types of things. So, no, these people need to get support. But again, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to attract that because within Western culture sees monogamy as the standard, unfortunately.
Yeah. And here's the thing though, Rakim, some of these women that want to be a wife to their dark masculine man, the dark masculine man is already married, or he has maybe a girlfriend or a long-term partner already, and so it feels like an impossible situation where she would like to receive like a respectful title from him, but he's already married. So what do you say to those women?
But yeah, I mean, again, you have to learn to manifest that. If you're with a dark masculine man and you want to be married to him and he's already married, you need to tap into your power to be able to do that. You know, and if you do that, then possibly he'll add you as one of his wives, or possibly he'll leave his current wife, which is what the person you brought up before did. You know what I'm saying? She came into a union and the primary wife left. So there's possibilities where these women can manifest that. Again, I don't have any judgment, as you know, about what women want to manifest. You know, like if you want to manifest marriage with with an already married man, then go for it. It's a matter of you tapping into your power to see how that works. Again, some women would be fine being added to the family. You see what I'm saying? And being the second wife or third wife or whatever it is. But if she wants to be primary, she could either, work on manifesting that with her dark masculine because some of these dark masculine men, they don't want to be with their wife. Like it's not just that, you know, they're not leaving the wife because they want to be with her. It could be some other reasons. Some of these men do want to pursue love in other relationships and leave their wife or their current partner alone. But there's a reasons why they're not doing that. So again, we never know what the real deal is, but I believe these women can manifest that. But again, it takes skills, it takes power. And again, most of these women refuse to get the support they need to do these things.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
So, switching gears, can you describe to us some of your best sexual experiences?
My best sexual experiences.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's a complicated question. I've had a lot of great sexual experiences,
Mhm.
and there's lots of different ones. So first of all, I wrote a book called um, "Finding Male Sexuality: The Journey of Awakening the Male Sexual Self." So in that book, I talk a lot about my personal sexual experiences that kind of woke me up to being a more dynamic sexual being.
Mhm.
Really good book. I recommend that, especially to the ladies. Um, but yeah, just there's so many reasons why I've had so many great sexual experiences. Number one, let's start with the basics. Sometimes it's just great physical chemistry.
Mhm.
Like I've been with women and just like the depth and the width and the shape of their vagina is fucking perfect for my penis. You know what I mean? And that by itself is amazing. And it makes the experience amazing. Number two, another example, I've been with women who, just like their expression, the sound of their voice, the noises they make, it's almost like singing, it's almost like poetry. The way they express themselves, their vulnerability, like that can make the sexual experience amazing. You see what I'm saying? Number three, like just the love that you would share between two people, like just having a high level of love, of care, of respect. You see what I'm saying? For the person that can also make the sexual experience like just amazing, right? One of the big things for me is like I've always enjoyed women who like learn to master me, right? So they watch me, you know, sexually and outside of sex, and they figure out the things that, are really enjoyable for me and that kind of thing, and they like really go in on those things. That makes the sexual experience amazing. Um, yeah, like when a woman just like really loves me, like I've always been into that. You know what I'm saying? So that can make it really exceptional for me. So yeah, it's a number of different things. I don't consider myself to be very dynamic when it comes to sex. I mean, I'm not trying to do a bunch of different things. I don't care about, like a lot of things you see in porn and doing a bunch of theatrics and all. I don't really care about any of that. Like my thing is like, look, let's come together and do the basics, but let's do the basics like really well. And let's focus on the things that we both really enjoy, you know, and let's do that over and over again. And then like we can switch it up within that, right? The other thing too that I just thought of that I really enjoy is like women who are like very orgasmic, and women who can feel my energy very strongly. So I really like that. So like women, like before we even get into penetrational sex, they might have had like 10 or 15 orgasms, just like giving me oral or through me touching them or through me, but like putting my penis at the gate or their vagina, those types of things. Like I really love when women are very open in that way, open to my energy, open sexually, and by the time we have intercourse, like they're already worn out. You know what I'm saying? Like because they've had so many deep, fulfilling, full body type orgasms. So it's a lot of things. Hopefully that answered the question.
That was a great answer. Absolutely amazing.
Okay.
Um, Next question. So I don't know how many of your relationships have come to an end, but I know there's been a few. And one of the things that you said as to why some of your relationships ended was that you weren't willing to give those women the time that they wanted to have with you. So my question is, why weren't you willing to give them, if these women were willing to be your wife, why weren't you willing to give them the time that they desired?
Well, I don't know if the relationship came to an end because I wouldn't give them the time, but I know what you're saying. Like there was definitely frustration around that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in giving the time. I want to be by myself. I want to do my own thing. I want to date multiple women. I've already got a wife. You know what I'm saying? All those types of things. I got kids. I got projects. I got businesses. I'm not interested in the fantasy of relationships. So I'm not going to give it. I'm not giving it to anybody. I'm not giving it to my wife. I'm not giving it to anybody. So again, there's a common complaint when it comes to me about not spending time and not investing time, whether it's family or friends or relationships or whatever, like that's just who I am. I'm very upfront about that. I'm very public about that. But, some women still want to change that. They're welcome to try. I don't have any issue with women trying to change that or whatever. But when it doesn't work, it doesn't make any sense to be mad at me about it. But no, the relationship's come to an end for a number of reasons. I don't consider myself to be the final stop for like 95% of the women that I date. Like I said, I'm already married. I'm hoping that these women have great experiences with me and really grow and expand, which most of them do. Like most women become more orgasmic when they're connected to me, even when they're talking to me, when they listen to me or they watch a podcast like this. And I hope they're able to take that energy and transmute it and go out and create amazing lives and amazing relationships with men who can actually be there physically 24/7 in the way that they want. So, the best relationships I have are with women who understand that. Like I said on the last podcast, I think it was the last one or the one before, my best relationships have been with women who are married already and in an open marriage and they have, you know, a solid long-term partnership. You know what I'm saying? And they're not looking for that from me. They want time, they want intensity, they want to build, but they understand like there's certain limits to that. So I love women who are like very mature about it, who just have like a really great disposition when it comes to, what it is that I bring to the table and what it is that we can have together as a union.
Some people ask the question, why should a man be allowed to have multiple women if he is unwilling or unable to financially support multiple women? What's your answer to that question?
Well, the answer is that we're gods. So that's the part that most people are missing. And that's the difference in terms of my philosophy versus other people's philosophy. My philosophy is that I am a god. We are all gods. We are all goddesses, right? We're all incarnations and expressions of a god and goddess, energy and consciousness, right? And so because of that, it means I can manifest whatever I want to manifest for myself. I don't have to follow somebody else's rules for how to live my life or how to manifest my life. I don't have to do that. Why? Because I'm a God, I'm a creator by nature. So I understand, other people are saying, well, you need to have your finances together and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not true. And we see that in society. We see that with our president here in the United States. You can be a felon, you can be a rapist, and you can be the president of the United States and you can have half the country or close to half the country love you and adore you and support you. Why? Because we're guys. We don't, these rules that people put out there, that's why I said I don't believe in this whole thing around morality and ethics. Those are, or a universal morality or universal ethics, those are individual people's, they're subjective for individual people. No, the reality is because you're a god and goddess, you can create whatever you want. That's why you will always see men with no money getting a lot of women. You will always see women with like 5, 10 kids getting a ton of men, and still getting married and all this kind of stuff because none of those rules apply. Everybody's talking a bunch of BS based on what they believe should be the rule, but it's not the rule. You understand what I'm saying? Like none of this stuff actually applies. We've seen all the scenarios. We've seen the brokest man. You understand what I'm saying? Not working, playing PlayStation all day, name it, all the stuff, cheating, and still getting loved on and still being put up for free, by his woman or his wife or his girlfriend or whatever it is. Why? Because we're all gods. If you want to create that for yourself, then create it for yourself. We've seen this, like I said, the same thing with women. We've seen women cheating on their man repeatedly and publicly, and her man stays with her, still pays all the bills, still houses her and her other kids from other marriage. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can create whatever you want. So this whole thing about there's only one way to do it is not true. So that's why these people are frustrated and they're trying to put these things on other people because they think it's the one way to be, but it's not.
Well, here's the thing, Rakim. People aren't saying that a man can't attract multiple women even while he's broke. Like, I think they know that. But they're saying that, like, it's wrong. It is wrong for a man to have multiple women and he is not able to provide for all of them financially. That is just wrong.
Right, but the issue is we're in the age of women's empowerment, right? So you might be familiar. This is a women's empowerment age. Like we're trying to empower women, right? We're trying to say, women, you have choices. You can go out and you can do the things that you want. You can be great. You can be married. You can do whatever you want, right? The issue with what you're saying is that you're telling these women that they're wrong for dating these broke men. You're telling these women, like, look, you should not be choosing this man, even though you want to fuck him really bad, even though you want to be with him on whatever level you choose to be with him, you shouldn't do it. That's the issue. Again, the argument might seem logical to you and to others because you're focused from a man's point of view. Again, most of these people who are saying that, they're only looking at it from one lens because they're so angry at men and they're so upset about the fact they have a manifested marriage and fulfillment that let that anger skew their perspective. No, what about the women? What about the women who insist? See, in one of my previous podcasts or classes, I tried to help women understand. It was a live I was doing, and I tried to help women understand who are talking to other women, especially women influencers. I said, you can't tell women what to do. You cannot tell the feminine. You can't shame her into choosing what you feel is moral or right. She doesn't agree with moral or right. The feminine has never, you can't force Oshun to only date this man over here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like you can't force a goddess to only date men with money or men with means. She'll never do it. As soon as you tell her not to date the man over there who's broke, that's the first man she's gonna date. She's like, well, why can't I date him? Well, let me show you something. Like that's the nature of feminine energy. And people they have a really hard time with that. They have a hard time accepting that women and the feminine and the goddess is going to do exactly what she wants to do, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. And again, what you're trying to do is say, well, the man shouldn't do this and the man shouldn't do that. It doesn't matter what the man's saying. The woman is going to jump on the dick. She doesn't really care what you're talking about. You cannot stop women from dating who they want. I don't know how much I have to say that. Again, you can focus on the man if you want. Even if he secludes himself, she will find a way to get into his house and climb into his basement through his window and she'll jump on the dick. I guarantee you. So you can't stop the goddess.
Well, here's the
Does
thing,
that
though.
make sense
It,
though?
it totally does. But here's the thing, Rakim. People will say, okay, I understand that this particular man that is broke or whatever, or who's already married, I get that he spikes your oxytocin and he excites you and you have orgasms with him. But guess what? He doesn't really give a fuck about you. And so it is wrong for you to get involved with him. Even though it may be pleasurable, you're going to get burned.
And
So
the and the woman's response is, I don't give a fuck. I'm jumping on the dick. I mean, again, you can speak to this directly when it comes to what 100 people, 200 people have told you relative to me over the past 10 years. Like, you're going to do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't care what these lame motherfuckers are telling you to do. You're going to do exactly what you want to do. And the point I'm trying to make, it's not about right or wrong. It's like you can't tell the feminine. So you've got lover in your chart, right? Oshun. So that aspect of you is not trying to hear what anybody's talking about. And I'm speaking, I'm trying to have people understand feminine nature. So feminine nature, she hears what you're saying. She hears you say, look, I'm not going to get anything good out of this. He's not going to be able to support me. If I get pregnant, he's not going to be there for the child, for the baby. Like I get all of that. He's going to cheat on me. He's going to steal money from me. She still doesn't care. If she wants to have that experience, there's nothing you can do to stop her. You can't say anything like that to stop her. Again, that's his feminine nature. That's the nature of the goddess. She's going to, that's the whole point behind the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. What they're trying to tell you and where they got that story from in a metaphysical story is they're talking about the feminine nature. As soon as you tell her she can't do something, she's going to do it. Okay?
Whew. Okay. Wow. That's so real, Rakim. Like, wow. Like, and that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do because women have so much shame around the fact that the primary reason why they want to be with their dark masculine man is to have sex.
Right.
Like that's the reason.
Yeah.
But like so many women like have a really hard time like admitting that that is the primary reason. They don't want to admit it.
Well, the feminine is not accountable. So accountability is a masculine trait. So, part of the way the feminine is able to do what she does and not feel any shame around it is to not really acknowledge the truth of what it is or not really acknowledge certain realities around it. So if you make her say, "Yes, I just want sex. Yes, I'm dumb because he's not going to support me financially, and yes, I'm crazy because he's not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." And like if you make her say that, then she's not going to be able to really flow in it in the same way. So instead, what the feminine does is say, "Look, I'm not acknowledging anything. Like, I'm gonna do my thing, and I'll just use my feminine energy and power to get out of it if it turns into a bad situation or whatever. She's not gonna get into all that heaviness. And also to her, it doesn't really matter. The feminine is also, from one perspective, she's kind of fearless. She's not scared. You know what I'm saying? She's not scared of complete and total ruin. You know what I'm saying? Like these things don't intimidate her. Like look at like just the concept of a woman being with a man. So you got this man, he's like 6'3", 6'4", and he's like, let's say he's like semi in good shape or muscular, and he's with his wife, she's 5'4", 5'5". Like just look at that on the face value, like what that is. Like that should be intimidating for the average human being. Like if this man loses temper, like it could cause a lot of problems in the relationship or in the marriage. You see what I'm saying? But these women are fearless, bro. They're always physically disadvantaged going to relationships and they don't care. They're not intimidated at all. Because the feminine is fearless. She's not scared of the masculine. You know what I'm saying? She's not scared at all. These women steadily are trying to engage with the masculine.
Mhm.
They're steadily getting into all these situations that are kind of risky and all that kind of stuff. Like she wants the experience. You're not going to keep the experience from her, man. She's just like, I hear what you're saying, but I want to see for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like she doesn't care what you guys are talking about. I hear what you're saying. That's the whole Kevin Samuels thing. He's trying to tell women this and that. She's like, no, I don't care if I'm 50 and I'm rated a 2 or 3 on the dating scale. I'm gonna get a rich man. You know what I'm saying? She's like, you can't tell her nothing. Like she's like, I'm gonna do it. And that's a beautiful thing because that's what keeps society moving forward. Like the feminine, if it wasn't for the feminine, we would just all be sitting around like really not advancing as much. But she really pushes the envelope. You know what I'm saying? So that's my answer to that.
Well, okay, you're talking about the feminine in the ideal form, the full expression of her as Oshun. But here's what a lot of like human women actually say, is they will say, well, even though he's fucked up and even though he's not giving me any money or anything, I just believe he's my twin flame. He's my twin flame. We were meant to be, and hopefully he'll start to treat me better. But like we're meant to be together. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. What do women say when they go to a party and they had sex with like two or three guys at their fraternity house? What do they say the next morning? Why did they do that?
I don't. They were drunk.
Correct. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, the feminine doesn't want to take accountability. So she'll give you a reason to back you down, right? She'll say, "Oh, the reason why I had sex with him is because I was drunk," or the reason why I'm with the dark masculine is because he's my twin flame. You see what I'm saying? She's just trying to get you to back down. Like, leave me the fuck alone. Let me do what I'm going to do with this man, but give me the support when I ask you for the support, but leave me alone. So she's just putting that out there to as a justification so people leave her alone so she can do what she's got to do. Does that make sense?
Ooh, that was so deep. Wow. Oh my gosh. Like you're mesmerizing, Raquel. I'm just okay. Okay, next question. How do you happen to have such high quality semen?
Well, I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to put it out there like I'm doing something in particular, but um, for a long time, I really was on top of my diet. It's like drinking lemon water consistently every morning and that kind of stuff. I've gone years before without eating any kind of sweet anything, even fruit. So I've done that before. I've been vegan before for 10 years. Um, you know, drink plenty of water, that kind of stuff. But also, I also have a pretty healthy sex life and healthy disposition when it comes to women and sexuality. So because I look at sex from a very positive standpoint, metaphysically, what that does is it helps my sexual organs and sexual system be in really good shape. So I feel like because I am a sexual being, because I honor who I am as a sexual being, that my sexual system works really well. So, for example, like I'm 55 years old right now. Okay. Talking with my girlfriend, I've talked with other women in the past. They said, "Well, Rakim, one of the things about you is like your dick is hard like a 20-year-old." She said, "I've fucked a lot of men who are 55, 50, 40s. Like the dick's not as hard. Like they can't get as hard, right? They can't get as erect." Um, and part of that is because of the way these men look at sexuality. One of the things they do is they're heavy masturbators, number one. They look at women as sex objects, right? As opposed to something that feeds you, right? Something that like gives you energy, that gives you power, that gives you ashe. You see what I'm saying? They don't treat their body like a temple because I'm a sexual being, because I do tantra work and energy work. I do treat my body and honor my body as a temple. Again, not that I'm on top of all my stuff. Like I should be exercising more and doing more yoga and stuff like that. But in general, I do see my body as a sexual temple. So I just feel like because I see myself in that way, that my sexual system works really well for me. Um, I don't masturbate. I can't remember the last time I've actually masturbated. I mean, it's been decades. I just have sex with women. You know what I'm saying? Preferably raw sex. Um, and I feel like that really feeds my system. So I'm going to guess that those are the reasons. Taking care of myself to whatever degree, plus my general disposition and view when it comes to sex and sexuality and women and that kind of stuff. I feel like that helps my semen be higher quality. And I've gotten, feedback on that from a number of women over the decades, even recently that, my semen is high quality and they're thankful for that.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been with a lot of men, and I can definitely tell the state of a man's physical health by the quality of his semen or the lack thereof.
Hmm.
And so, I've been with men where their semen was very thick and gooey and almost slimy and like, ugh, gross. And men where the semen, instead of shooting out, it just kind of dribbles out,
Yeah.
you know? Men with just a little teensy weensy tiny drop of semen, and that's
Hmm.
all that comes out.
Hmm.
And I've also been with men where the semen is it's watery. It's like almost like water, see-through. There's no like substance to it. There's like it's just like, whoa, this person is malnourished.
So
Um,
those are the negatives of semen. So describe how mine is or what a healthy semen is to you. What does that look like or feel like?
I never never really thought like because I've put words to the negative, but I never really put words to the positive. Well, one of the things is that it shoots out,
Hmm.
when the man is having a ejaculation, like it shoots out, like there's energy in it. It doesn't
Hmm.
just dribble out or like there's nothing there. And it's like it's nutritious, like it's like there's color to it. There's um like it's not too thick and gross, but it's not wet and watery. It's like it's just right. It's like just right in the middle.
Yep. Yep.
And so like you could just tell like okay, just like the way it shoots out, the just the right texture, the right color, like it just and it doesn't smell bad. Some men, their semen, I've seen a lot, Rakim.
I know. I know.
You've seen a lot. But your semen is just like the best way I could think of to describe it is I don't feel afraid to swallow your semen. With
Yeah.
with men with unhealthy semen, like I have resistance. Like I don't want to swallow it
Yeah.
because yeah.
Well, I was gonna say one way you could almost describe it is like healthy semen is more maybe more alkaline versus unhealthy is maybe more acidic.
Okay.
Does that
I don't know if
resonate at
that's
all?
I don't know the science of it. That could be true. I don't know.
Well, just a thought, like when you think about it, like sometimes when you think about acidic foods or substances, it tends to have like a kind of a rough toxicity. It doesn't really feel healthy or flowing. It feels a bit more corrosive. Where alkaline in general kind of feels more healthy, more light, more vibrant. So that could be a part of it as well.
Like this stuff matter. I don't know why this isn't talked about everywhere. Like the quality of a man. Like we just assume that all men just produce the same quality semen, and that is absolutely not true.
Correct.
It's not. And if men want women to swallow their semen, then they have to take care of themselves.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that starts with like just your attitude in life. Like a lot of men, again, I don't feel they have a true love for women and appreciation for the feminine, even the feminine inside of them. And I feel like that kind of begins to shape you in a negative way over time. Um, being with a woman is a gift, man. You know what I'm saying? Like it's such a gift. You get healed in so many ways, you get blessed in so many ways. And I feel like if you have that general attitude and perspective around connecting with a woman, then that's where it all begins in terms of, your overall health and the health of your semen and those types of things. But when you have like a negative attitude around sex and sexuality, and you think pornography is it, I feel like sets you up for a bad time. So, for example, if you were to follow it and have sex based on how people do in pornography, to me that could be hurtful to your overall sexual system, whether you're a man or woman. You see what I'm saying? Like the most powerful orgasms, for women, I try to teach this to my tantra clients and the women that I date and I'm with, is like the very subtle movements, like the very subtle things give you the most powerful orgasms. You see what I'm saying? And repeated and back to back and over and over again and that type of thing. So I feel like I think there needs to be some education and retraining. Unfortunately, monogamous culture and religion has done like a really bad number on people and our belief systems and our ability to understand ourselves, and that's what we're fighting against.
One thing that I forgot to mention, I don't know if this is still true for you because I haven't been with you in a while, but what my recollection of you is that the quantity as well, like you produce copious amounts of semen. Like if you were to come on my chest, like my whole chest would be filled with semen. So like you produce a lot. And I've been with a few other men as well that, they're in their 20s or whatever, and they also produce a lot of semen.
Yeah.
But I find that as a lot of men get into their 50s and then their 60s, like they eventually they don't even produce semen anymore.
Yeah. You know what else is interesting? So that I can verify that, like when I'm with women, they always comment on the amount. They're like, Jesus, you see what I'm saying? Like, And so there is I can confirm that based on the feedback from them and just my experience in general. But you know what else is interesting is that over the years, my penis has grown.
Wow.
It's gotten bigger. And again, I feel like part of that is because of who I am as a sexual being and kind of how my general posture towards sexuality and my general posture towards women. Like I've had women who I was dating consistently. They were like even from like week to week, they're like, Rakim, your shit grew from like last week. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, it's impossible. Like, there's no way. But I feel like I'm constantly growing. Like, I think you might have heard Kenya and I talking, when her and I try to have sex. Like, one of the reasons why we haven't been having sex is because I've just outgrown her. You see what I'm saying? And so for us to get back into it would take some work and that kind of stuff. But yeah, she said, yeah, you've gotten bigger over the years. Like she's even said that. And so I think that's another thing that what many need to learn. Like if you have the right attitude and if you adopt a lifestyle where you respect the feminine and you respect sexuality in the right way, like you're going to benefit in a lot of ways. You'll benefit from your dick staying hard when you need to be hard. You'll benefit from it growing over time and being stronger and firmer even as you age. And you'll benefit from the fact that you'll be able to produce a lot of semen and that semen is going to be healthy.
And she'll swallow it too.
Absolutely. I had this
Enthusiasm.
I had this one question that came in that I wonder, can I interject it
Yeah.
and see what you think about it? Someone was asking about what can you say about the one penis rule and how it impacts women who wish to embody the dark feminine. Do you have any comment on that?
Wait, say that again. The one penis rule and the dark feminine. Like what?
Yeah, I guess the question would be like, well, can you have a one penis rule and still embody the dark feminine?
Oh, over the long term, like 20, 30.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to know your opinion. Let's take short term versus long term. Let's start with long term. So, can a woman be in a long term committed relationship with a man, 20 years, 25, 30 years, monogamous, and can she be inside her dark feminine from your standpoint? Then I'll answer after you're done.
Um, only if she is like a priestess of the dark feminine. Like she's devoted to that. Like that is her life path. And
Mm,
this is something she does every day, not because of him. Like this is like she's a priestess, literally. I think if that is her path, then it's possible.
absolutely, I agree with you, and I want to address that from this standpoint because I think this goes into some things you've asked before in the past. Because one thing you asked is like, hey, if a woman does get with her dark masculine, right? We know her lesson is to become a dark feminine, but your questions in the past have been, well, can they have consistent, passionate sex for the rest of their relationship? Let's say they get married. Like, will they have passionate sex at year 10 and year 20 and year 30? You see what I'm saying? I feel like part of the ability to do that is to be a dark feminine woman, which means you understand how to be with your man and keep it fresh and keep it intense and keep it passionate. So a dark feminine woman will create enough space inside the relationship where it's not going to get boring and it's not going to get monogamous and it stays intensive. Why? Because she needs it to be that way, right? So she's saying, look, I've already manifested a dark masculine. I don't have to manifest more, right? If I treat this one in the right way and nurture the right way, it can stay intense and stay passionate. So maybe she, takes mandatory breaks, sexual breaks, or maybe she takes, or they take mandatory individual trips, or maybe she allows him to go have other women at times, or you see what I'm saying? Like, I think these dark feminine women, they can be monogamous.
Mhm.
But I think if they want to maintain like a passionate sex life, then they have to understand how to take care of their man and how to interact with him in the right way over the course of years.
Mhm.
Another thing about that I mentioned before on one of our podcasts a while ago, dark feminine women are also they're like they're like herbalists and
Mhm.
they make all these potions and all this kind of stuff. Like they know how to feed their man and themselves so their man stays hard and stays virile and stays vital. You see what I'm saying? And so that they know to feed themselves so that their pussy stays wet. and that they stay, so I feel like these women also understand that science. So again, I want to make sure I'm clear to you and your listeners. I'm not against monogamy or exclusivity at all. I'm against the culture of it, the belief that a woman, if she's had too many partners, she's no longer wife material, or just like stupid stuff. You see what I'm saying? But if a woman decides to be with just one man, I believe, like you said, if she really gets into her like dark feminine practices and becomes a priestess of the dark feminine, that she can maintain a long-term, committed, passionate sexual connection with her dark masculine over the course of decades. I believe that.
Absolutely. I mean, I've known you for over 15 years and I'm still very sexually passionate about you. It hasn't changed. In fact, it's increased. Like I'm more passionate about you, I feel, than ever before. So,
Right,
but
but if I was with you like Hayden was,
Mhm.
where I'm in the house with you, do you think it would have died down over time?
Yeah, if we're constantly together, like how I was with him, like constantly together. And if I just like hated my life, like when I was with Hayden, I wasn't on the dark feminine priestess path. Just I was just miserable. Like
Mm,
you
okay.
know, so, like the dark feminine priestess path, like it's not a small thing. Like it's a lifetime commitment. It's a major thing. So, if you're on that path, then you're gonna be you're gonna know that you know what if it's like a discipline. It's, you could discipline. See, a lot of women that are having a bad relationship with their dark masculine man, they lack discipline. They lack internal discipline. So they're not really paying attention to what's going on in their thoughts, which is affecting their emotions and their body. And so a lot of time, as I've said to you in a previous episode, um, what we're thinking about. You're saying, I want him to want me, but let's look at what you're thinking about most of the day relative to him. And if
Hmm.
you actually take a look at what you're thinking about most of the time, you're thinking about him not wanting you. You're
Mm.
thinking about him rejecting you. You're thinking about him insulting you. You're thinking about him being repulsed by you. That's what you're thinking about most of the day. And that's what you're complaining about to your girlfriends and to whoever who will listen that, he's not paying attention to me, he doesn't care, he's not attracted to me, and I feel so rejected, blah, 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 blah. But that's because that's what she's thinking about. That's what she's entertaining most of the time. If she was honestly, truly entertaining, thoughts, visions, fantasies of him like lusting after her, thinking about her with desire, missing her, wanting to be, if that's what she was entertaining 90% of the time, then he would start showing up that way.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important part of the dark feminine path, which is, you have to have your mind right. And you're calling it discipline, and I agree with that. But like your thought patterns can't be all over the place. Like the dark feminine, she's confident, man. You know what I'm saying? Like she believes in herself and she understands that the way she thinks and the way she views the relationship in a dark masculine is going to have an impact on how it actually turns out. Like she understands that. Like that's because again, remember we had a conversation before a little bit where I said there's different paths, right? So like the path of the lover, or the enlightened feminine and that kind of stuff about grace and beauty and all that, she's relying on kind of like an external thing and like a presentation and all that kind of stuff. You see what I'm saying? But the dark feminine doesn't have any of that to rely. I mean, she might, but she's not relying on that primarily. She's relying on strictly her power, and power is kind of centered when you can be clear on your focus and be clear on the things you say and how you function, that's how you gather power. You see what I'm saying? And so the dark feminine path understands that. And so I agree 100% with you that when these women are thinking about the worst, they're literally pushing them away and they're not dark feminines.
Yeah. So, how did your penis get to be so large?
Well, I believe it's, through the study of Tantra. So I'm a Tantra practitioner. I teach it. Um, and I think it's also my take on sex and how I approach sex. So like I said in my book, Finding Male Sexuality, I talk about how I basically came out of a pornographic culture and moved away from that mindset into more of a tantric mindset. And so I think the ways I was having sex, taking my time, learning to get into the subtleties of, what the vagina feels like, the wetness, the tightness, all those types of things, doing breathing, focusing on energy work, all those types of things. I think over time, that supported my penis and getting bigger. Actually, my wife Kenya, she commented on that a couple months ago because I was asking her about it, and she was like, "Yeah, I think it's because of how you approach sex, Rakim." And the fact that revere women to whatever degree, and the fact that you've had multiple partners and that kind of stuff, I think that's aided you in your penis getting larger over time. And I would agree with that. I think if I was having pornographic sex, like just banging, like hardcore banging, and rough sex and that kind of stuff, I don't think my penis would have grew. I think the growth of the penis is more of a subtle type of process that comes about like when the vagina, like this, just like the elixir, that liquid within the vagina is able like to nurture and strengthen the penis. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that is just one of the keys.
Wow, so beautiful. What advice do you have for men who want to be sexually desired by lots of women? How can a man get women hooked on his penis?
Well, the easiest answer to that is that men need to focus on developing their masculinity. So a lot of men think, hey, if I do say this to a woman and say that and make this move and all that, then I'll be, attracted to a lot of women. And that's not the key. Because for women, attraction is really energetic. You know what I mean? So it's like what you should do as a man is like work on your masculinity. And there's like three different paths within that. You can work on your leader or your king archetype or your warrior archetype or your negotiator archetype. But as you work on your masculinity and you increase your masculinity, that's going to draw women to you. And women might not even really be clear all the time, like why they're attracted to you, right? So it might be because they think you look good, or because your stature, because they think you got high quality semen, or that you can really fuck good, or whatever it might be. But the bottom line is, it's you're going to end up attracting a lot of women, right? You don't have to. I always tell men like it's really not about the chase. I recommend that men only chase women, quote unquote, really not chase, but pursue after she's selected you. So after she's kind of given you a clue that she's interested, then you can pursue. She wants you to pursue after that, right? But men, as men, we shouldn't be chasing women. We should develop our masculinity, develop ourselves to the point where women find us interesting and find us attractive and are drawn to us. And then from there, we can develop the masculine skills to, connect with women, have relationships with them, have really good sex with them, etc.
My opinion on this, if I may, is I feel like one of the things that makes your penis so large and so hard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel part of it is that you speak your truth. You're very bold and upfront about the fact that you are a polyamorous or, open relating, you have a wife. Like you're very vocal about these things. And there's not a lot of men that say these, like there's a lot of men that are cheating, but they're not being vocal about the fact that they're sleeping with multiple women. They're not telling anyone. And I think that, constantly having to lie and hide, like that keeps a man's penis from growing. Does that theory make sense?
Absolutely. 100%. Like I feel like, again, not being authentic, hiding, which is an energy that kind of collapses you into yourself. I think that prevents hardness for a man. I think it prevents wetness for a woman. I think it also douses your sexual desire in general. And I also think it's also the author of illness and disease, like the cancers and things like that. Like I think the more we suppress who we really are, that means you're keeping that energy inside of you. The body wasn't meant to keep the energy inside of you, what I'm saying? Like the same energy for all time. Like it's got to be released or it's got to be utilized, right? And so the body has issues storing it or recycling it or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So the question is, where does the energy go? Well, it goes to parts of the body that probably can't handle it, and it ends up causing damage. So the penis or the lingam is a very soft, tissuey organ in the body. You see what I'm saying? And so it's very vulnerable to energy. And it's supposed to be that way. I mean, that's how it gets hard. It's energy that's making the penis hard. It's also the blood and all that kind. But I'm saying like the energy is what's making it hard. So if you're suppressing yourself over time, the penis is gonna take the brunt of that suppression. Same thing with a woman's vagina. Like a lot of women get like ovarian cancer and a lot of different issues. You see what I'm saying? And that's because you are suppressing yourself. You're suppressing who you are as a woman. That energy is trying to find a place to live. So it goes to live in the vagina, or goes to live in the ovaries, or in the uterus, or the kidneys or the liver or the pancreas or whatever it is. And those organs were not meant to hold the energy that long. And so that it causes damage. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, no doubt.
Whew. How did you learn to make women orgasm without touching them?
Well, I learned from a teacher. I learned from two teachers. I always give two teachers credit when it comes to Tantra. First is Rao Nefer the first, who's the author of Medina Volume 1 through 7. But in that book, he taught about Tantra a little bit in Volume 1. That was my first exposure, or even me hearing about Tantra. Okay. Then me being around him, I saw him use energy work, not in a tantric way, but I saw him use energy work. So he did a healing on Kenya, just like a haphazard thing. Kenya was at a ritual. She was coming off of getting chemotherapy treatments because she was on chemotherapy and she wasn't feeling well, but she was at the ritual anyway. And he went into possession. And he said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I got a headache. My head hurts." He like waved his hand. He said, "What headache?" Then she got up and started dancing. She was fine. So that was my first time being exposed to energy work. So I always give credit to Rao Nefer Men, the first as a teacher. Also, I learned from Shantana Tiyama. He showed me his particular style of tantra and energy work and body work. So that those two men provided a foundation for me, and from there, Kenya and I, we were able to really practice those things. Practice on each other, and really develop our own practice, which we call I2 Tantra, which I teach at Pantheon in the Mystery School. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And over time, you develop, that ability. So by working on hundreds of clients and those types of things, you become proficient in that. But part of it is like understanding that that can happen. And that's what I'm saying. Like in my book, Finding Male Sexuality, it was me understanding that sex is not pornographic or just physical, it's also energetic. So if I understand as a man and then I begin to break down, well, what is energy? And then I get to understand, okay, well, what is the aura? Oh, the aura is energy, which is also a physical thing, which connects to the body. And if I can manipulate the aura, then I can manipulate the physical body. So it's like getting into the study of these things and the realization of these things. I was eventually able to, cultivate the practice of helping women reach what we call orgasmic plateaus and pleasure and that kind of stuff during her tantra sessions. Now, it's not just orgasm. Like during a number of my tantra sessions, women will go into possession, or they'll start speaking in tongues, or they'll start, remembering past lifetimes and all kinds of stuff. So it's, when we talk about energy work and we talk about tantric work, like it's a very broad thing. You know what I'm saying? But yes, that's where I got my start and my practice. Luckily, again, Kenya and I were both into the same thing, so we were able to practice like on a regular basis, like energy work, body work. We were having sex, like the whole thing. And so we were really able to develop, and that's where having a partner, a wife or husband, is really helpful, especially if they're in sync with learning tantra and learning to expand sexuality sexually. Because we expanded it in a lot of ways. Like I became more orgasmic, not ejaculatory, but orgasmic. So I began to have like these powerful orgasms, like during sex and even outside of sex. So I'm having orgasms throughout the day, just doing different things, and then having these orgasms during sex. And so that began to expand my consciousness around what orgasm is and how I can bring it forward.
Beautiful. What is it like having an out-of-body experience during sex?
Well, an out of body experience basically means that your consciousness doesn't feel localized inside the physical body. So it's similar to like certain like dreams that you might have where you feel like you're in this new dimension or new world, you know what I'm saying? So it feels kind of like that, like you feel like you're kind of outside of your physical body. And it can be a little bit intimidating, a little bit scary because our physical bodies for many of us are like our anchor. That's our foundation. So when we separate from our body, we feel like we're going to die or be exposed or like we're going to heaven or whatever it might be. But no, what happens is your consciousness separates, or really your spirit. Your spirit is a combination of your consciousness and your energetic or light body, and you begin to travel. You begin to realize that you are not, intrinsically a part of your physical body. And so, a lot of times the reason why that happens during sex is because sex is about releasing and letting go. And when you do that, the spirit takes over, and then you start to have these experiences, some of which are transcendental in that way. So it's a beautiful experience. It can be kind of scary for people, but I recommend, especially for women, that you allow yourselves to go there and just trust your spirit, and it'll be, really beneficial to you.
Thank you for that. So now I'm going to talk to you about Ayesha Curry and her husband, Steph Curry. I'm not really into, like, I don't really get into celebrities. I don't follow the NBAs. I know very little about these people,
Hmm.
but they've been all over Instagram because a lot of people are talking about them because of some podcast that she was on recently where, she sort of said that, she married at age 22 and prior to getting married, she said she wasn't really even thinking about marriage or having kids. Like she was more focused on becoming a career woman. And she also later in the podcast said something about, she tries to tell her husband about how she's feeling, but he doesn't really understand. And so a lot of people, a lot of men especially felt that she emasculated her husband by making these public comments. Um, and so you said that I should read some of the quotes. So I'm going to read a few to just give you a sense of how some of the men are feeling about this.
Okay.
I saw this on your wife's Instagram page for Progressive Love Academy, and one of the men he said that because I posed the question, did Aisha, emasculate or disrespect him? And so this person said, in the traditional monogamous sense, yes, he was outright disrespected because of his public status and apparently squeaky clean persona to the world. Her behavior in the monogamous sense hurts his image. She's not wrong in her feelings at all, but in their particular situation, he's a very known basketball player. Some say one of the best in the game today. So her words reflect his reputation and image. Like, why does the world need to know how she really feels about her husband when that is a private matter between them to deal with? And so he continued on saying that the thing is, Steph Curry has major status in the sports world. He isn't a bum. If their relationship overall is solid, why was it so hard for her not to come to him above all other people about how she's feeling? Wouldn't he expect her to do this, or he would be expected to do the same? And then there was another quote that I screenshotted where the gentleman said, their marriage might never be the same again. The husband will internalize everything and process it, then subconsciously make moves, or he will constantly be reminded by his family, friends, and worst foes, she did him bad. And and he also said the dude might act unbothered, but he's processing everything. And another gentleman said exactly because it speaks to her character more than his. And also, if you can slander someone online whom you love to strangers online, no dude would want to be the next. You're blocking your blessings, my sister. And again, you're showing people your true bitter personality. Think about it. And I have one more quote here. What did I? Where was this? Okay, so the man said that man, Steph Curry, he provided her the lifestyle. She should have used that avenue to better herself. And why is she putting her business out in the streets for all of y'all to comment on anyways? There's more to it behind the scenes. And while Mr. Curry is patiently dealing with her, she's out there in the streets. So these are the remarks from a lot of men. They really feel that what she did to her husband was like almost unforgivable. So, what are your thoughts on that, Rakim?
All right, this is kind of a complex thing. Number one, she didn't slander her husband. Okay, so nothing she said is a slander towards her husband. Number two, we don't know if they've talked about these things before or not. It sounds like they have talked about him if she's saying that he doesn't understand. So that means that she's probably brought some of these things to him and they've had discussions, but she felt he didn't understand. This is the issue here is monogamous culture again. Okay. In monogamous culture, it's very important that you appear a very particular and specific way. One of the things about monogamous culture is that your marriage is supposed to look pristine to the outside world, right? So, like, spouses end up suffering behind closed doors a lot, but presenting like everything is okay in public. Okay. The reason why that is because one, it's expected that, we are naturally monogamous and that's the right thing and the good thing to do as a man and woman. But two, to just kind of uphold this particular image. Okay. From another perspective, when it comes to monogamy, because you can only be with one person, and because there's the fantasy of monogamy out there, your partner ends up reflecting you and your brand. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I chose this person, and so however they appear, then that's how that's going to reflect on me. It's similar to what you were saying before about the two become one thing. If you and I become one being, and I go out and I stab somebody, then that makes you look crazy as hell. You see what I'm saying? So, like again, in monogamous culture, because people want to like bring the individuals together into this one being concept, then what one person does affects the other. Here's the reality of it. Oh, and lastly about monogamous culture is, people in monogamous culture, it's believed that one person can satisfy all your needs for the entirety of your life. Okay, which is ridiculous. So what Ayesha Curry is really saying is that number one, she she misses and desires she misses and desires masculine energy. She's saying that Steph Curry is only one aspect of the masculine, that what she really wants to do is experience other masculine energy. All women want to feel beautiful. It's a part of the DNA. You want to feel beautiful. You want to feel special. You want to feel desired. All those types of things. When you don't feel that way as a woman, it eats away at you. Okay, that's why a lot of women end up getting divorced because they wanted to go out there and just be desired and like kind of be in the energy of being desired. So when you're in monogamous culture, and especially when a couple like that who represents what monogamy is, then you don't have any space to have that experience. And now you begin to drown, you begin to suffer inside of, this monotonous situation where you can't receive certain experiences that you generally desire. Again, these things are actually real. Like how she's feeling is real. Like she really does want to feel some energy. I'm not saying she wants to have sex, which I believe she does, but I'm not assuming that. But yeah, she wants to have these other experiences that I think it will help her be more balanced physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally if she were to have those experiences. If she was able to go out into the club and have men approach her and talk to her and hit on her and those kinds of things. Like just to have the experience, like having groups of men say that they're attracted to her. On the flip side, Steph Curry gets that.
Mhm.
He's got women throwing themselves at him every day. Every city he goes to, there's women in the lobby waiting to see him just to try to get his attention. There's a famous video of a woman at a Golden State Warriors game, and she's staring at Steph and like licking her fingers and trying to catch his attention. You know what I'm saying? Like what you understand is that feeds a man's spirit. Like if a lot of women are expressing that they want me, it really feeds my ego. It's one of the reasons why these athletes are able to be as successful as they are. Like if you picture Tiger Woods, for example, the fact that so many women wanted him, that really fed his ego and fed his spirit, and he was able to go out and like dominate.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like because he knew he was the shit.
Mhm.
So, yeah, she should be able to experience that. But monogamous culture prevents that from happening. So the other thing I'll say is these men are projecting their insecurities onto Steph Curry. We don't have any evidence that he feels any way about this at all,
Mhm.
about what she said. You see what I'm saying? But these men would feel a way if their wife did that. Now, why would they say that? They would say it because first of all, these men are either they're single, unable to, you know, create a loving marriage and relationship with a woman that they love and desire who loves them. And so they're projecting their frustrations and their fears and insecurities onto Steph. I would be very surprised if the men saying this are actually in happy, fulfilling marriages with a woman they love and who loves them. Okay. Also, again, most of the men who are making these comments are what we call beta males, right? So these are men who are not in their masculinity, they're not attracted to women, those kinds of things. And I'm saying that for this reason. An alpha male could care less what his woman is talking about out in the streets or on a podcast. Like, why would what she's saying affect me or my family in a negative way? It shouldn't. Like, I don't really care. Like, if that's the truth of how she feels, that's how she feels. You know what I'm saying? If she wants to talk to me about it, or she wants us to work on it, or go get coaching about it, then we can go get coaching about it. But I'm not. That doesn't impact me in any way. Steph Curry's still gonna. He's still gonna be making tens of millions of dollars every year. No matter what these beta males think about Steph Curry or about his situation, it's not going to affect his money at all. It's not going to affect his fame at all. It's not going to affect his skills as a basketball player at all. These men want that to be a factor in who he is as a man, but it'll never be a factor. Why? Because he doesn't care. Why? Because he's probably more in his alpha nature. In order for him to be as successful as he is on the basketball court, he's probably more inside of his alpha nature. So therefore, what a bunch of beta males are saying on the internet behind the keyboard, half of them don't even have a real profile picture. You're just not affected at all by what these men are saying. These are men who they don't have anything going. Look at Steph Curry and his life and what he's achieved, what he's accomplished versus these men who are commenting on his wife and his family. So we know that these men, have a particular issue or psychology or psychosis that needs to be looked at. The last thing I'll say on this is, one of the rules for us as men is you can't really get into criticizing another man's kingdom.
Mhm.
You understand? So it's like you might look at Steph Curry or LeBron James or any of these athletes or these people's relationships, and you might say, you know what, I wouldn't do my situation like that, right? But the bottom line, okay, well, do your stuff the way you want to do yours. Why are you in his jock? You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, talking about him and criticizing him and his wife and his family and not like you that's his kingdom. Let Steph go ahead and do his thing. If he wants to correct it or change it, then he'll correct it and change it. But as a man, I'm not really going to judge another man's situation. Now, again, I get it. He's a celebrity and both of them are public figures. So some of that's going to come with it. But again, like, am I really into how he's going to handle his kingdom as a man? No. As long as he's cool, as long as LeBron James is cool, you know what I'm saying? Then you guys go ahead and do your thing. So as a man, I'm not really invested like that. Yeah, some of the talk, you can talk about it and have fun in the barbershop, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not invested in what another man and how he runs his kingdom. Even if his wife is doing him wrong and that kind of stuff, like, dude, and he's staying with her, then that's his thing. You know what I'm saying? You want to be with an abusive wife, or you want to be with a cheating wife, or you want to be with this and that. You see what I'm saying? Like, so again, that's a negative critique on these men's manhood and their masculinity because they're just so invested in how another man's running his kingdom, and they shouldn't be, especially because they haven't accomplished literally 1% of what he's accomplished, not just materially and financially, but even from a family perspective. This is a man who's been married for I don't know how many years, 25 years or whatever it is, or 20, and has four children, and I don't know how many homes they have and all that, and a great family situation. You see what I'm saying? Why would you be criticizing that if you haven't accomplished even 1% of what he has? So again, as a king, as a man, I wouldn't be too invested in that. And hopefully, Steph Curry doesn't care what these people are talking about online.
I think he doesn't. And but what really surprised me about all of this was just how emotional the men were getting. Like they were real, like I could feel the emotionality in their comments, even just reading it. Like these men are really like worked up about this. And like they feel angry at Ayesha. And they feel like, like why their thing is like, why is she even complaining? The man is a multimillionaire. He's super successful. She's set for life. Her children are set for life. Her grandchildren will be set for life. She has everything that a woman could ever want from a husband. Why is she complaining about this incredibly successful black man? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, but it's like, so because you're rich and because you're set for life financially, it means you don't have problems or you don't have issues, you don't have wants and desires that aren't being met and fulfilled. Like, what are we even talking about? You know? And first of all, these men, they're projecting their fears and insecurities onto Steph and that kind of stuff. And number two, they're just mad at women in general. These are the same men who are out here like criticizing women for everything they do, talking about body count this and talking about, women should be in the home and celebrating all these black women getting fired from their jobs here in the United States because of Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the same men who are doing that. The same men who refuse to vote for Kamala because she's a woman. They're mad at women. Like these are the men who are doing that kind of stuff. So again, the issue with the internet is it gives this platform to a lot of these frustrated individuals, both men and women, to like express all this stuff. But it's just not to really be taken seriously. This is a really angry, disenfranchised part of the population. And I mentioned this before, I think, because I know mostly it's like, black men who are saying this, but it's also white men. Like the rise of white supremacy and that kind of stuff in this country is because a lot of these men are disenfranchised. A lot of these men are hurt. They're not having good luck with women. They don't have access to women. And as a result, they're lashing out at women any chance they get. So when a woman like Ayesha Curry makes a comment or whatever they don't like, they just jump on her. Nothing that she said is really that big a deal. You know what I'm saying? She didn't say like, what I'm saying, I'm going to the strip club tonight so I can, give some man oral sex in the bathroom. Like she didn't say something, I'm saying, like mind blowing like that. She's just saying I want to feel more attractive. I missed that. I didn't know I wasn't going to be a career woman. That's fine. You didn't know you're going to be a career woman. You didn't know Steph was going to be as big as he was or whatever. That's fine. I mean, she's just expressing how she feels and her journey. But again, she is also trapped inside this box of monogamy. So what'll end up happening more than likely is just she'll just have to take that, that pain, that hurt to the grave. She's not going to be able to divorce because that'll look too bad, and it's not worth it. And she's not going to get the additional masculine energy that she wants because there's no other avenue.
Wow. I want to share with you something that I've been thinking about lately. Because a lot of women that are in relationship with a dark masculine man, um, they they don't like the fact that he's self-focused. Like they're really annoyed by that.
Mhm.
And they use terms like he's emotionally unavailable or he's just afraid of emotions and this and that. And like what I'm like feeling into more and more, like in my body, like not just mentally, but like actually allowing myself to feel is like, okay, well, what does it feel like to really actually be self-focused? Like what does that actually feel like? And so I've been exploring that, like just really paying close attention to me and my thoughts and how I feel and what my body needs and what I need to eat and just me, like screw everything else. Like my attention is on me. Like I started like really experimenting with that. And it's like it's when you get really into it, it actually is very sexual. And I was really surprised by that because I was like, I've had a hard time with self-focus for a long time. Like it's not something that it's not in my Bagua chart, my personality report that you do. The conservationist, the dark feminine is not something that, I was just like, part of my general makeup. So I've really had to work at it. And I had a lot of resistance to like focusing on myself because that just felt so, I don't know, selfish. It felt weird. It felt, I don't know, like I was so used to like outwardly focusing and what's going on social media and what are people saying and what's Rakim doing and what's happening on his page and what are all these other people doing and what are all these other coaches doing and what are they doing and what's going on and outside, outside, outside. And then when I started practicing, like let me just like not even look at social media for 24 hours and just feel into myself. And like when you stick with it, after a while, you start to feel more powerful, like for real. And like you take control of your thoughts and you're like, oh, I can really control my thought. Oh my God, like I can think about what I want to think about, and really get into that and like feel into having everything I want with Rakim and the money and all the things. And like it can feel kind of scary, but it's also like it feels so sexy to be self-focused. And so I'm saying this to say like if women were to really explore like self-focus, not as a chore, not like, oh, okay, I gotta prioritize myself, but if they think it's boring, like if you allowed yourself to just like really like feel into it, deepen into it, and like allow yourself to derive pleasure from it, then you're gonna stop judging your dark masculine man because you're going to be like, shit, self-focus feels amazing. Like, what have I been doing all this time? So I just needed to get that out. What are your thoughts on that, Rakim?
No, I think it's great. Being self-focused basically means prioritizing your goals, your objectives, your health, your happiness, those types of things. And so when something comes up that contradicts that, what I mean? Like if it's time for you to get rest and that kind of stuff, and somebody asks you to do something, you just say no because it goes against what you need to do, unless it's an emergency or something like that. So that's, yeah, being self-focused, I think is very important. There's nothing wrong with it. There should be no shame in it. We all need to practice that. A lot of times these women are triggered because their dark masculine is self-focused because they need to learn to be more self-focused. And so that's why that trigger exists.
Yeah. That's been my number one trigger with you. But yeah, I mean, I'm womb choosing you. I chose you because I'm attracted. One of the things that I'm so attracted to in you is your self-focus. I actually love that about you. Like it's so, it's just like, how does he do that? Like how, like it was so foreign to me, but like some part of me was like, I want that. I want to feel that same kind of way. Like I want that. I want to embody that. And so now I'm understanding more and more on a visceral level, why I've been so attracted to you all these years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So thank you so much for your time. Did you want to give any final words, Rakim?
No, that was it. Those are great questions. Appreciate this podcast. If folks want to find me, they can find me on my Instagram page, which is Rakim Sekou, RAKHEMSEKU. And they can also email me, rakimsekou@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Rakim. Talk to you soon.
Peace and blessings.